Bounce back game for the T-Wolves. They snapped their 2-game losing streak. I got Wolves expert Jack Borman. He's going to help me break it all down. It's all coming up next on the Locked On Wolves POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves bounce back strong in Houston tonight. 122-95. They snapped their only 2-game losing streak of the season. They moved to 25-9 on the year. What's happening, everyone? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast episode right here on the Lockdown Sports Minnesota Network. Myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man, Jack Borman, on Twitter, at JRBorman13. He claims he's in a Michael Jordan flu game tonight, so we'll see what type of performance we get from him. But before we jump into all that, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, man, let's jump right into this one. Lots to cover, really. I mean, this is the game I think Wolves fans wanted to see, right? After losing 2 in a row, everybody was getting after it tonight. They just looked a lot more active, a lot more fresh tonight, and really played with that new gear, really, that's been missing these last 2 games that Coach Finch told us about in his last press conference. Start here, though. Give us your major headlines, big observations, just to kick things off.
Yeah, nice to see the Timberwolves get out to their largest lead of the season so far, 33 points. Just 1 game after the season ended. That was great, obviously, to see that. Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing in this game was just the way that the Timberwolves were able to force the Rockets to take shots that the Timberwolves wanted them to take. I think that the Rockets took a lot of ill-advised shots early in the shot clock, and the Timberwolves did an excellent job of rebounding. I believe they won the rebound battle here. What was it, 52-38? That's going to play every single night. And they just didn't let any of Houston's guys really establish a rhythm that lasted more than 1 quarter. Jaden McDaniels was phenomenal in disrupting Fred VanVleet early on. I know that Alperen Şengün, really, really talented center, really burly dude, tough guy to get over screens on for someone like Jaden, but he did a great job. Fred VanVleet, 7 points on 2 of 9 shooting. That's a great thing. And then with Şengün too. I mean, you look at Rudy Gobert, played really soft on Şengün early in the game. That first quarter allowed 11 points on 5 of 7 shooting, kind of in that short mid-range area, that little floater area. We saw Şengün really get going. And then the rest of the game, I believe Şengün had, 8 points on 3 of 10 shooting with 2 turnovers. Really, really great job, especially from the Timberwolves 2 defensive stars for really setting the tone. And then, you had guys like Kyle Anderson who came in and played in the gaps off the ball really well, moved their feet. Kyle, I believe, had 3 steals tonight, but certainly, impacted, even more turnovers. I would say that he probably created 6 or 7 turnovers just with his defensive activity alone, which is obviously a great thing. And, amidst all the conversation about, Kyle Anderson potentially being a trade or a trade chip that the Timberwolves move out. I have certainly been one that's been pounding the drum of, I don't think people fully understand just how important he is defensively. And I think he's a really important piece to the Timberwolves being able to play to their truly huge, really big, lineups, and especially defensively where those have been so successful. He's been such an important, linchpin of that. And tonight was another example of that. And tonight, the Timberwolves 2 stars didn't play all that particularly well offensively. It was just really kind of all over the place, up and down. But, when the Timberwolves have their defensive fastball like they did tonight, and then rebound the ball, or active off the ball. I believe, they created 15 turnovers, turned it into 18 points, ran really well, won the fast break battle, I think 20-6, or 20-8, excuse me. So, really just a defense first game, and the rest kind of fell into place. And that's exactly what the Timberwolves needed. over this last stretch of 5-6 games where their defense has really slipped and has been pretty pedestrian. So hopefully now the Wolves can kind of turn it on here, against 2 more really, really good teams before their schedule gets, 3 more pretty good teams here before their schedule gets really soft.
Yeah, well said. And you lose 2 in a row, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. And it kind of put things into perspective a little bit. And just taking a step back here for a second, man, you win by 32-33 tonight. Just such a fun run for this team this year. Beating the teams they're supposed to beat, first and foremost. Some great road wins along the way. My mind immediately goes to at Dallas, at Miami, at Sacramento. No cat in that game. Maybe the best win of the year, arguably, anyways. And they're doing it in so many different ways, too, which is, again, what the best teams in this league do. So a great get-right game tonight, taking care of business. And speaking of a clean game, too, Karl-Anthony Towns, he was crispy tonight. And he was doing all the little things you want to see, too. Not just the points in the box score, but rebounding, handful of assists, good defense on the other end. Evaluate his game tonight and how important he was in this one. And in the big picture, when he pays attention to the finer details, how important is that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously think he's a really important player. I would probably give tonight like a C- or a C, honestly.
Okay.
I think that, Karl had 4 turnovers. He was pretty chaotic and pretty all over the place for half the minutes.
Is that anything new, though?
Not in the last handful of games, really, since he's come back from that injury that he suffered, right above his left knee, that caused him to miss that Sacramento game that you mentioned. Obviously he was really important in the second half of just like helping the Wolves extend the lead and had some timely baskets. But man, there were a lot of times where he took some kind of ill-advised shots on the drive where he passed up some wider than wide open threes to drive into double, triple coverage, turn it over, or throw up just a crazy layup, hoping that there was a foul, and then he's on the ground and the Rockets are out and running. And, thankfully the Rockets weren't able to convert as much on that as, other teams have been able to in the past. That really makes some of that kind of chaotic play from Karl stand out a little bit more. But, got to give credit to Karl. He really, recovered pretty nicely with some good defensive plays when he checked in at the end of the third quarter, had that, that great take to get to the free throw line, made a couple free throws, had a great shot block and rebound on the other end. And then found slow-mo for that cutting poster dunk, all 3 possessions in a row, which was phenomenal. And then obviously kind of kept it rolling into the fourth quarter to really, stamp out the Rockets. But I think offensively, the Wolves just, have to get through to whether they've tried to get through to Karl or Karl won't listen or they haven't tried to get through to Karl. I don't know. Shooting 4 3-pointers in a game for Karl-Anthony Towns is unacceptable. He should be shooting threes twice as much as he's posting up, twice as much as he's driving. And that's just not the case right now. He's driving way more than he's shooting threes. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns is one of the best shooters in the league, shooting over 40% from 3. Almost every single time he takes a 3-pointer, it's a good shot. And he's just passing up way too many wide open threes to drive. I'm totally cool with him passing up, a good 3-pointer to kick an extra pass like you did to Ant or Jaden a few times today. And he's a super unselfish dude. And that's obviously a great thing. We want him to keep doing that. But some of these drives, man, just driving in double, triple coverage with charges and turnovers are frustrating. So that's where you kind of got to clean up on the margins. But again, his 22 points and 6 rebounds had some really awesome passes out of the post to find, 3-point shooters on the perimeter, which was sweet. Or the cut to Kyle a couple times. Had a great cut pass to Rudy for a dunk, which was great. We'll get there, Sam. Don't you worry. But yeah, I just think it's all the stuff on the margins for Karl. But again, I think you gotta take a night like tonight. A C or a C- might be a little harsh. I'd probably say like a B or B minus.
I appreciate,
especially consider the way he's been playing of late. He hasn't been as good.
Sure.
This is a good kind of step in the right direction for sure.
Well, I was going to say, I appreciate that evaluation because when you win by 33, it's easy to smell the roses, but like you pointed out, still plenty to clean up from his game as he, again, still tries to get back up to his A game, so to speak. Nonetheless, though, overall, clean game that you wanted to see where every offensive statistic went the Wolves' way tonight, including J-Mac. Yes, Sam Ekstrom, that's right, J-Mac. Kind of been waiting for him to pop off a little bit more consistently, right? 16 points tonight. Ultra efficient, though. 7 for 10 from the floor. 2 of 3 from deep, even got 3 boards tonight. Watch out, 3 rebounds from J-Mac, which as of late, that's a monster game from him. I guess why is it so important to keep getting these kind of games from J-Mac consistently? Again, something that we really haven't seen consistently as of late.
It's really important because it allows the Timberwolves to really, still score well. I mean, they scored 122 points despite both of their best players shooting 8 of 17 from the floor and turning the ball over 9 times. So, my thing with Jaden is frankly, I've been a little disappointed with what we've seen from Jaden so far offensively. How if we want to do a little blame pie, I don't know how much of that is on the coaching staff for not helping him, get the ball in places where he can attack from like they did tonight. Or how much of it is just on Jaden with his confidence in going and getting the ball and just confidently attacking the rim and getting to his spots in the mid-range and scoring like we saw tonight. I think the biggest difference tonight compared to earlier in the season or those nights that he isn't scoring is that, he caught the ball in an empty corner quite a lot. And the Timberwolves got him the ball either in handoff situations where he could attack the baseline, which he's been really good at for pretty much his entire career. Or they just got the ball to him in the corner and really spaced out and let him attack in a spread floor in a one-on-one situation in which he was also really successful tonight. I think the biggest thing for Jaden is if you can kind of set, a pin down screen like we saw Rudy Gobert do for Anthony Edwards quite a bit in the fourth quarter, where you can throw him the ball when he's kind of catching it on the move coming out of the corner and into the middle of the floor and either can curl into a shot or can then drive right into the teeth of the defense, because he does have really good touch around the rim, and we've seen that. His long arms kind of unlock all these crazy finishing angles that are really tough to stop. And you kind of saw the full bag from Jaden McDaniels tonight. And then, the 3 times that he was open from beyond the arc and, wanted to let it rip, he let it rip, and he was 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. So for Jaden, I just think it's a confidence thing. All right. Now you scored 16 points. Do it again against Dallas. Dallas is a pretty small team. That'll probably stick Kyrie Irving. I'd imagine Kyrie Irving would guard or Luka would guard Jaden on Sunday. And that's a matchup that Jaden McDaniels should absolutely look to exploit, getting, downhill off the dribble to make those guys work. And the more that Jaden McDaniels is able to score, the better the Timberwolves offense is going to be, because they won't be as, top heavy and reliant on Ant or Carl or, even Mike Conley. I think this was kind of like a night that Mike didn't even really play that much. He only played 25 minutes, but they were pretty low usage minutes. He wasn't fighting over screens that much. He wasn't initiating a ton of offense. And, again, the more the Timberwolves are able to get scoring from guys, not named Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Edwards, the better they're going to be. And when they can get it that efficiently from Jaden and what seemed like really repeatable offense, right? It didn't seem like it was anything crazy. There weren't a ton of lucky, crazy shots that went in. He was getting to his spots and connected. So we need a lot more of that from Jaden if the Timberwolves want to, start a new winning streak and try to improve their offense the second half of the season.
Great breakdown right there, and well said. Plenty more to deep dive into tonight's 33-point victory in Houston right after a quick word from Game Time. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by Game Time, because you should never have to worry when buying tickets to any big event. That's why Game Time, they're the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets to any local event, concerts, comedy shows, sporting events, even Broadway theater, and with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Personally, for me, I love that view from the seat feature they offer, so I can get a real visual and accurate look on where my seats are going to be, so I know exactly what to expect before spending all that money. And with their all-in prices, Game Time shows you exactly how much you're spending with no hidden fees. It's time to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. See for yourself how easy it is. Just create an account and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, just create any new account and redeem your code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Game Time. Terms apply. All right, let's pick back up here. One of the issues lately, and Tyler and I were talking about this after that 2-game losing streak, just the Wolves kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Maybe you guys touched on this on the Minnesota basketball party, which you can check out every Wednesday afternoon as well. But the turnovers, right? Like they were cooking in a good way in the first half tonight, but then things started to kind of even out at the end. 14 for the Wolves, 15 for Houston. When they did look better and were getting the steals, playing some clean defense, I'm curious if you thought it was more, I guess, just in general tonight, sloppy play by Houston or great defense by the Wolves? Because I guess I know it's just one game, but the turnovers you saw tonight were that sustainable, I guess, long run? Or I'm just curious your 2 cents on these turnovers from the Wolves and if you're seeing some steady improvement throughout the way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I've seen steady improvement from the Timberwolves, in terms of their own turnover issues. I think that those are well documented. And the problem with the Timberwolves is that a lot of their turnovers are live ball turnovers, meaning that, they're steals, which the other team can take the other way and more easily convert into points. That's why a lot of times you see the Timberwolves lose the points off turnover battle, even if they have a similar number of turnovers as the opponent. That did not happen tonight. The script was kind of flipped. So the 12 of the 15 Rockets turnovers were live ball turnovers, which is a huge reason why the Timberwolves were able to score, 20 fast break points, 12, or I think they scored, 18 points off those 15 turnovers. So that was great. And only 7 of the Timberwolves 14 were live ball turnovers. So they did a good job of kind of limiting their bad pass turnovers that become steals that the Rockets turn the other way. But yeah, in terms of the Rockets, I think it was a good combination of both in terms of them just being kind of loose and careless with the basketball. And the Timberwolves really did a great job playing in the gaps. I think they were trying to, lull the Rockets into throwing some of these risky passes. I think the Rockets are a team that, really struggle with length when you think about, pretty skinny or small guys and Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green, who are your main ball handlers. And that, when they see length, they're going to have to try to jump to make passes or, jump stop and then try to, throw passes at tough angles. And the Wolves did a good job of capitalizing on that. I mean, when you put a guy at 7 feet with a 7'2" or 3 wingspan and McDaniels on a guy like VanVleet, who's maybe 6'2", maybe, you're gonna be able to create some turnovers. And then they just have a lot of inexperienced guys that are playing in that rotation, that are probably being asked to do a little bit too much offensively. And so, but like I said, I mean, the Timberwolves did a great job of, forcing a shot profile from the Rockets that works for them. They took a lot of really tough mid-range shots, contested 3-point shots, which was great. But again, you have to like the Timberwolves defensive activity. I think that they can do more of that. They can try to get out and run and force turnovers more, because it's something that we've seen a lot of these players be able to do. When Ant and Carl and Jaden and Nas all played in that system 2 years ago, that team was really, its bread and butter was really forcing turnovers and getting out and run and playing really aggressive, active defense off the ball. And so those guys are all still capable of doing that. And they have even better defenders now. When you think about guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 2 steals, Kyle Anderson had 2 steals, Gobert had 2 steals, and then our boy Jordan McLaughlin also had 2 steals in 13 minutes. And he's always been a guy that's been right up there in terms of steal percentage. I would imagine he's right up there near the top of the NBA again so far this season with 2 and 13 minutes tonight. So, yeah, they can do it. It's just a matter of how much you want to move off of that pretty conservative drop coverage defense where everybody's staying home on the outside to, playing a little bit more up at the level of the screen and trying to be active with your hands and force turnovers that way.
Yeah. When you lose 2 in a row, most teams lean on the veterans, right? Kind of cliche, but it's true. Kind of clean everything back up, rally everybody back together. And even though the media, if you listen to the media after these 2 losses, again, like the sky is falling. Charles Barkley says, I don't believe in the Wolves anymore because they lost 2 in a row. Big deal, dude. Relax. But you knew we were going to get back to our bread and butter, right? And rely on the veterans during these tough stretches like we had this week. I know he only had 8 points, and you touched on Mike Conley already, but how much of an impact do you think he has during those kind of quote unquote bounce back situations, gluing the team back together a little bit? Because I thought tonight was going to be a great litmus test versus kind of a juiced up Rockets team. And they obviously delivered. We said 33-point victory, 27-point victory. My apologies. But Conley and Rudy and the veterans specifically, how much did they impact the box score or otherwise, because I know I'm getting ahead of myself, way ahead of myself. I mean, call me out, tell me to pump the brakes, but I'm thinking about this team in the playoffs, right? And the teams are the best of the best in the NBA. And you could easily find yourself kind of in a hole you got to dig your way out of. How huge, though, could these veterans like Conley be late in the year, deep in the playoffs, in those big moments? And I guess more importantly, how confident are you with who they've got running the show?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at those two guys, they've got more playoff experience than Ant, Carl, and Jaden and Naz combined. So you're obviously going to want to lean on them. And I think, where those two are really, really helpful is that they're both excellent communicators and organizers, where Mike is really taking care of that on the offensive end of the floor and knows, basically how to spread the ball around so that, everybody is kind of getting the necessary amount of touches that they need in order to be successful, especially between Carl, Ant, and Rudy. And then with Mike too, obviously, he's the guy who best activates Gobert. And when Gobert is able to play above the rim like he was tonight, he's just much more effective, and he's got a lot more energy to give when he's pumped up offensively on the defensive end of the floor. So, and then the thing with Rudy is he's just such a tone setter defensively that I think, he makes all these plays that may not show up in the box score of getting guys to, kind of U-turn on their drives to the rim or pass it up on drives to the rim, or just take really tough shots. I mean, you can look at defensive field goal percentage, but those, you don't have those single game numbers until, generally the day after the game. So I can't look at those right now, but he contested a ton of shots in the lane. I mean, if you're looking at Houston here, Houston took 45 of their 90 shots were in the paint, but they shot 51% on those paint shots. And a lot of it is because you look at basically their shots, away from the rim. So you want to look at their shots from 4 to 14 feet. They took 20 of those shots. They shot 35% on those shots, and league average is much closer to, 42, 45% on those shots. And that's where the Wolves have been thriving all year. It's not just Rudy too, but Carl has done a great job of contesting those shots so far this season. And so I think with those two guys, it's just the communication, the organization, the tone that they can set, and just the trust, right? That the earned trust that they have from all these guys. All these guys, really respect Mike and Rudy as leaders, as guys that have done things in the NBA that they have never done before. They have the credibility of the playoff series wins. Mike, being a teammate of the year guy that everybody loves, being, one of the best, floor general point guards, and then the 3 defensive player of the year trophies speak for themselves with Rudy Gobert. So no question that those guys are going to be helpful. And another thing too, that Rudy talked about a couple weeks ago post-game, is the need for the Timberwolves to kind of practice within games, meaning they're going to try a bunch of different things, whereas fans might be banging their heads against the wall saying, why aren't they running more pick and roll with Mike and Rudy? Why aren't they running this play or that play if it's been successful? And Rudy spoke like, hey, like, I've been in the playoffs. Like, you've got to be able to do different things. Like, when you look at the Jazz teams, like, they were only really good at running spread pick and roll, and they weren't really good at doing anything else. And the Timberwolves are trying to be good at that everything else that those Jazz teams weren't good at. So it's really important that those two guys are also leading the charge and like, hey, we know that the play that involves the two of us works really well, but we want to get everyone else involved and make sure that we can find things with you guys that also works beyond just with what works with the two of us, which I think is going to be really important here. As the Timberwolves have this, 45, 50 game on ramp, whatever it is here before they hit the playoffs, to kind of find what works, find a rhythm, and be able to kind of stow away some things that they can get back to in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, one of the luxuries too, when you build such a large a lead, right, in the standings, like, you have the luxury all of a sudden to experiment, practice on the court, try some new things during the regular season that maybe some other teams don't have that same luxury, that could potentially benefit you exponentially come playoff time, or at least late in the season. So love hearing that. I always learn a lot from you about not just the Wolves, but around the NBA as well. Just a quick 60 seconds on this Houston team. Van Fleet, okay, not the game we're used to seeing. I think he got a little hobbled later in the game, but you already talked about Şengün, Ja Green. You can kind of see the nucleus they have now. They've started to impress some people, I think, around the rest of the league. What's your quick scouting report, though, on another potential Western Conference playoff team here?
Yeah, I personally think that they're going to fall off and they're going
They're
to
going to
miss the
fizz out.
playoffs.
Okay.
But again, you have to give them credit for how they've started this season. I mean, when you look at what they've been able to do defensively, according to Cleaning the Glass, they're the third best team defensively coming into this season, which is pretty remarkable when you consider, obviously they have a new coach coming in Ime Udoka, who led the Celtics to the finals a couple years ago in his first season there. But I mean, you want to look at Houston last year, they had, pretty much the exact same personnel outside of adding Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks, who's a really important defensive player for them on the perimeter that did not play tonight and has not played the last handful of games. But they were 29th in defense last year. They were 8 points per 100 possessions better defensively this season than they were last year, which is an astronomical jump. And adding one perimeter defender and a point guard that doesn't really play defense, it should not be the reason why you jump 8 points. Like adding Rudy Gobert, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker the same season could certainly help you do that, but not guys like that. And so Ime Udoka deserves a ton of credit for how he's getting these guys to play defense. They've been really active defensively, which has been nice to see. And they're a really, really young team still. And so I think for them, the challenge is, how do they kind of get all these guys fed offensively, right? Like you have Jabari Smith Jr., who's more of a stretch four that's kind of still trying to find his way after, maybe a disappointing rookie season offensively. And Jalen Green has just really kind of been all over the place, but is really, bought into playing defense at a higher level this season when his offense isn't there, which has been important for them. And then you just bring some guys off the bench like Jeff Green, a grizzled veteran, kind of like Mike Conley that, all those guys really respect and look up to, and has helped these guys play at a higher level defensively for sure. And then you have guys like Jayshawn Tate and Dillon Brooks on the perimeter that can really fly around, Tari Eason as well. So they've got a lot of length, which helps them on the perimeter defensively. That's really where their bread is buttered defensively, is, hounding ball handlers and playing active off the ball, things like that, because Şengün's not really a rim protector. So, but really impressive from them to be able to turn it around the way they have and at least play more competitive basketball. They've got to turn it up, away from the Toyota Center where they haven't been very good. But yeah, this year's been a great step in the right direction for them so far.
That's a great snapshot right there. Love that. All right, couple quickies to close before we wrap up. But first, a quick word from FanDuel. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets when you win just a $5 money line wager. That's $150 in bonus bets when you throw down and win just $5 on any money line wager. I love the Cowboys this week versus Washington. 13-point favorites. Take them to win outright. You could win $150 in bonus bets back. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time to get in on all the action. The app, so easy to use. And they got everything you need. Money lines, parlays, prop bets, you name it, they got it. FanDuel's got everything you need to bet on the entire NBA season. And it's by far the easiest and simplest betting app to use. Go check it out for yourself. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon today. America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, official partner of the NBA. All right. All we hear about is this tough schedule, man. All right, still going. Mavs again next. Magic, Celtics, Blazers, Clippers. What's just the one thing that jumps out to you the most when you hear those next 5 games? Whether it's a specific game, a specific player, a matchup, I don't know. What sticks out the most?
I think it's got to be the Clippers. The Clippers are a capital P problem with the way that James Harden has been playing and has been able to really breathe some life into the offense. They made a change to send Russell Westbrook back to the bench. And so they've really had, their big three of Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden really humming over the last month or so. I mean, if you just take a quick look at what they've been able to do in the last month, if you just look at their schedule, it's a lot of green, a lot of W's. I think they've only lost one game since they played the Warriors, which was, oh boy, when was that game? They've lost one game since December 2nd. I want to say they're like 17-1 or 16-1 in that frame, something like that. So they're really coming on strong. I'm really excited to see how they play, because they're a team that can really spread you out, and they'll really challenge this offense. So that'll be really fun to see for me. And then, I really want to see how competitive they're going to be able to be, in Boston. I know it's the second night of a back-to-back, but that first game was just such a banger at Target Center that you'd hope that they don't just completely mail that in. But man, Orlando and then Boston is a really tough back-to-back when you're just talking in terms of miles traveled. So that'll be interesting. But again, I mean, if you can get the bench to play how they played tonight, 39 bench points. You look at, Nas had 16, Nikhil had 11. Jordan McLaughlin had 3 points and 3 assists. I mean, when you look at them, and the bench alone had 6, 8, 13 assists, and moved the ball really well and played the way they did. They're going to really need the bench, in this next week or so, 10 days or so, just because it's going to be a game where the starters are really going to have to work defensively. And other guys are going to have to work defensively. And it's not going to be a night where Ant and Carl can just kind of be scorers and not play on the other end. So I think the more well-rounded and balanced they can be, playing some of these teams that can really make life difficult for you on both ends of the floor, in Orlando, Boston, and oh my goodness, and LA.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That well-rounded attack is going to be really important. And it will be fun to watch, because, if you're just going up and down and looking at the schedule here, the Timberwolves, don't play all that many really solid teams, until the trade deadline on February 8th, when they're going to be in Milwaukee. So, and there's some playoff teams, they play Oklahoma City twice in that span. They play Memphis, who's got Ja back, obviously, but the majority of these games are very winnable against non-playoff teams. So, if they can just kind of get through with seeing the light at the end of the tunnel here, it'll be coasting at least a little bit, and hopefully their play doesn't slip, and they can kind of find themselves a little bit more offensively in ways that they haven't been able to against these teams over 500 that for the majority have really strong defenses that they've but hey, even if when they haven't played their best offensively, they've still found ways to win these games. And I think they're 8-5 in these games against
that sounds
playoff
right.
over
Yeah,
500
that sounds right.
teams. So hey, man, I mean, anything above 500, you'll certainly take that with the way they started.
Let's end with this one. Ricky Rubio announces he's retiring after the season. 421 games, 7 seasons with the Wolves, 30, 60 seconds at the most. What you'll remember the most, I guess, about Pretty Ricky, his time in Minnesota and his career as a whole.
Yeah, just an amazing human being. First and foremost, I think that he is an incredibly easy dude to root for, because he just had such a positive spirit, infectious personality that really came out in the way that he played. I mean, one of the most unselfish guys you'll find as a player and a person, teammate. And it's no surprise when you look around the league to hear guys like, Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, all these guys just speak glowingly of Ricky Rubio as a teammate and what he helped them do and learn as players in this league. He's a mentor to a lot of great dudes. And I'll just never forget just how much pizzazz and flair he played with when he first came over. And just, the kind of the youthful spirit and the way that ignited the crowd at Target Center, and made so many great passes that led to incredible dunks from guys like Andrew Wiggins. And always remember that dump off pass he had to KG to dunk over Blake Griffin. Just a really fun player that played the game the right way, really competed defensively and made everyone around him better. And I think when you have a guy that plays with that much joy, and you hear about, and has had such a positive impact on people, and you hear about what he's been dealing with the last, 6-8 months or so with his mental health issues, you just root for the guy and hope that, he kind of finds his peace and really can enjoy, being a dad and living back home in Spain with his family. So, great dude, great player. And hopefully a guy who I think should absolutely have that number 9 retired in the south end at Target Center.
Absolutely. Well said. We'll end on that. Well done tonight, as always. Let's get you out of here so you can grab a Gatorade and ice up. Wolves bounce back strong, though. They get their mojo back. 122-95 victory over Houston. They scoop up their 25th win of the year. And look, it's only the first week of 2024. As always, huge shout out to everyone who joined us in the postcast, in the comment section. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game, same time, same place right here to break it all down. Quick reminder as well, go check out Jack's work on Twitter at JRBorman13. And by the way, you can always check out Jack on the Minnesota basketball party with our guys Sam Ekstrom, Ron Johnson, Reggie Wilson from Care 11 every Wednesday afternoon as well. That'll do it for us tonight. Next on deck, Mavericks Sunday night tip-off, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, join us right here for the entire recap and follow all our work over at the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. One more quick plug. If you haven't already, you got to go check out Ben Beacon too over on the Locked On Wolves podcast as well. He's Jack Borman. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Until next time, signing out.